Hey there, welcome to episode 64 of the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program. I am your host, Managing Director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, a Nevada nonprofit public charity, 501c3. Today we are recording on the very early afternoon of Friday, May 10, 2024. Episode 64, that is one of those binary secret numbers that computer nerds know about. 128, 256, 512, and so on. Yay. But we did start counting at zero. Also, computer nerd fact. Today's episode, this FOAF is dope. A quick update on some of the Project Act stuff as well. Well, I'll just jump into it. Hopefully, wherever you're finding this audio program, you have located at the episode description. When we finally get our primary point of publication up and running, the show notes will always be visible with every episode. Hopefully that's true where you found this. I know Spotify and some other platforms don't always format them well or make them easy to find. This is unfortunate. Show notes are a useful tool. So be it. Today's episode, this FOAF is dope, is about RDF and the semantic web, but also about our projects and whatnot. But most importantly, perhaps, a quick announcement about the day after today, the day that we will aim to publish this audio program episodes each week. So, the quick summary rundown, continuing the DOAP and FOAF for Project Act. We're moving the weekly episode release days to Monday. Oh, there you go, spoiler. So we can talk about busy weekend hackery. New website for Innovate for Vegas Foundation. We'll talk about that on Monday. To feature this content about our audio programming and whatnot, and our event calendar, among other things. So busy. Me, myself, and I. The links are simple. I don't really have much specific, although the best place to find the links for this will be the project, well, for the DOAP and FOAF stuff, will be the Project Act GitHub organization, which I'll link to come Monday, and on our website and so on. But really, we're going to have a projectact.info site also to make some of this stuff visible. And then we can start out our outreach, reaching out, although we kind of have, and that's kind of dismal. It's been kind of weird, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. The journey up the hill, not so easy as the one coming down. Oh, so our two links, innovateforvegas.org, GitHub. I'm sorry, our main website, which will be beautified a little bit now that we can put some new stuff in the new cloud, and all that will then move over. So if you are listening to this before May 13th, yeah, you will see everything will look the same. And then after the 13th, barring any DNS hiccups, some new stuff. And then everything, our website as it has been, was a little bit cumbersome to update because it was just a one-pager manually constructed. We really need to pretend we're a legitimate organization and start publishing real stuff with real tools on a more frequent basis. And really, our media manager, Johnny Tyler, is very excited to not have to deal with LinkedIn anymore, as am I. So moving day, just get this out of the way. Our GitHub org, by the way, yeah, github.com/Innovate for Vegas. Okay. Moving day, publishing this program and the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program on Fridays is becoming a real challenge. It gets to be a lot. I do prepare. This is a solo show. If I had guests back in the old days when I would actually convince people to take the time, now it's very difficult unless you are, I don't know what it takes to get guests. We'll see how my podcast content creator networking efforts go. So far, they kind of flopped. Vegas. But I do prepare a show with notes. So the show notes and links that I publish are but a fraction. I do have, I use Obsidian, which is a not open source, but freely available note-taking platform. It's Markdown based, and it is the VS Code of note-taking, if note-taking is even the thing. It's almost like VS Code and Obsidian and tools like this are the Emacs of anything. As one of my colleagues at Netscape, Jeff Weinstein, once said to one of my other colleagues at Netscape, Jamie Zwinsky, not everything has to be an operating system like Emacs. And I was very inexperienced at the time, and I was like, huh. And yeah, Emacs can do it all. So can Obsidian. You could probably boot up a VM, or, well, certainly you can have a container that's technically not running it. Anyway, you could. I wonder if anyone's done a WebAssembly, because JavaScript, right? So, anyway, whatever. Obsidian. So I create this whole document per episode. So I have 4 episodes a week, 4 shows, 4 episodes that I do produce every week. And I think the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program would benefit from having a day of its own, so I can focus on that a little bit more. And if I do it on Monday, if I publish it on Monday, so if I even if I produce it on Monday morning, it can be about the weekend just gone by. And if we can get some hackathon momentum again, not here locally, of course, that is almost a lost cause at this point. But if we can actually do some stuff on the weekends, if we can get our outreach going and so on, or if I can get some collaboration or other discussions going on, especially with Project Act, although Project Act might get its own audio program if we get everything lined up. So we'll see. We'll see about all this stuff. In the meantime, there may be some video coming as well. We do have weekly. We have a monthly board meeting. We have a weekly office hours meeting on Thursdays. So we have our monthly board meeting during the 4th Thursday. It's on our calendar, right where it should be. So I can check that. But it's on our, you check it. Go to innovateforvegas.org if you are curious. Our board meetings are open to the public. Anybody can join in. So far, no one has taken us up on that. Recently, we used to have people participating in things more often in the beginning, but there was no free food. So there you go. I'm considering, I would ask, but right now I have a disclaimer that we do not record the office hours. So we could have an optional, like a second type, or maybe every month, maybe our board meeting should be recorded or something. So some sort of, or live streaming. We could do live coding sessions if we get a few people to jump in on some of the projects. So we'll see. We'll see where things go. But anyway, this show, and technically this show should be like a short show. It might be, because I only have a few things on here. They're just little updates on a few of the parts that I'm trying to keep moving. So the Monday show will have a full episode number. It's not like A and B or anything like that. So come Monday, we can talk about whether we do in fact get the new website, the beginnings of a new website. And again, I would like the new website to be, this is the next topic, so I'll jump right in. I would like it to be presentable and attractive in some way, but I am not a web designer. I'm not an aesthetic HTML-er. I'm probably going to try out maybe HTMX. If you're not familiar, HTMX is a thin amount of JavaScript that enables, it basically attaches listeners to attributes that have I think it's, is it HTMX or I can't remember. It's a pattern of attribute name for any tag. So you can attach actions and XML, HTTP requests. You can attach requests and what else? DOM updates and things to any element. So you can have a button click or a list expansion or whatever you do can initiate some actions on. So anyway, so I'll get into that more if we get that rolling. I would like to use it at some point in the site design just as a sort of a proof of concept or an example, and we'll see how that goes. Also, right now our website content is not published on GitHub. So there the question is, well, I mean, it should be pretty easy. For a data-driven content website, so that is data, it's not static web pages. Right now it's a static web page. So if we can get all the pieces lined up and we can generate content for articles and pull content from things like Spotify or hopefully host our own actual media feed. I mean, that's pretty trivial. Fun fact, in the early days when I was doing Radio Sunnyvale, so this was around 2008 or something, there wasn't quite the penetration of tooling and websites and platforms and familiarity and podcatchers and all that. Some of that stuff was out there, but I created all this stuff by hand. So I had a little, and I think I hosted it on my computer in my home. I think I had a DSL connection, so it was very easy to set this stuff up and play around. And I do miss those days, so we got to get back to what I have come to call fearless coding. Just try it out. So yeah, HTMX, we'll try that out. The two main non-project items, which I have already referred to, are the calendar and the media, this media. So as long as we can make our primary point of publication visible on our main website, so that the first place you can always find all of our audio programming, or any, if we do add video or whatever, you should be able to visit innovateforvegas.org, and you should be able to find exactly the episode you're looking for, etc. You shouldn't have to say, oh, now I got to figure out how Spotify works, or I got to sign up for iTunes, or any of that. They will continue to exist, but they will be secondary. So our primary point of publication, our own website, and then our event calendar, on which our office hours and our board meeting and other such things are posted. It's actually right now it's a Google Calendar. Eventually, this will take a little bit longer. We'll migrate to our Smart Social, Smart Calendar, Smart Cal server, Smart Calendar server. So we will basically have control over publication of, subscription to, syncing with, and so on, our own calendar server. That's part of our peer-to-peer social calendar or community calendar concept, which has been lost on the likes of Meetup and Eventbrite and most other, even WordPress junk. So let's get back to standards and do fearless coding around that. As well, this will need to fit into the larger MyMuni project. So our calendar we should be able to share our calendar so that others may subscribe to it. And you can do this right now with your Google or Apple or Outlook or other platforms. You can subscribe to a calendar. The calendar subscription link is in the office hours meetup, for example. It's a little tedious, but you should be able to subscribe to a calendar. And then if I cancel an event, that should show up in your calendar. That's how this already works. There's no magic. And we should all get used to using the tools that have been working for decades instead of relying on Meetup and Eventbrite and awful local projects like network.vegas and tech.vegas. These do an awful job of scraping and reconstructing text versions of calendars. They're just not doing it right. So our own website has to follow our own best practices, and we should fit into the MyMuni project. If for no other reason, then we are trying out our own stuff, but it should be a demonstration of how things should work. And then that makes us work a little bit harder to make sure they do. Two more things. Project ACT, the autonomous cohort transformation / autonomous cohort tessellation project. It's something we talked about. I've mentioned this a couple of episodes now, but if you missed it, I'm going to sneeze. Okay, we're back. That was fun. I don't want to sneeze on my microphone. So we Mary, our other board member at this time. By the way, we're looking for board members. If you're listening and you're interested, this is not just a snap your fingers and join. We're looking for actual interest and pro action. Mary and I were talking about the need to help brigades before Code for America sunset the program, to help brigades break away from Code for America and become autonomous. So that was the autonomous cohort transformation. We talked about this before the Alliance of Civic Technologists, also ACT, although we're Project ACT. Before ACT came along, the program was sunset. The ACT participants have had one major meeting in July of 2023. So we talked about Project ACT 6 months before that, 8 months before that, I think. And they've had one meeting, and it doesn't look like it's getting very far. But one of the things I've discovered is that there is a spreadsheet, a shared Google spreadsheet, not the best way to do this, with a list of all of the organizations represented on the ACT Discord. That's not a great way to capture data, but okay. So if you look on the left side of the spreadsheet, there's a bunch of rows. I'm not looking at it right now, but it's long. It's 50 rows, maybe 40. But if you look on the right side of the spreadsheet, a lot of the rows are marked with not responsive or other indications that there really shouldn't be 40 rows. So here's the problem with Project ACT, the other part, the autonomous cohort tessellation, and here's the problem we're trying to solve. Every participant in Project ACT can optionally indicate in their FOAF, their friend of a friend, that they are a part of the Project ACT group. They're related to, participating in. But they can also indicate their friends, peer organizations. So at the end of the day, spidering FOAF files, friend of a friend, which are RDF, resource description framework format, one of those. It's not. I don't think it's file. Resource description format, probably. You just like an RSS file, really, although not as much of as much of a pain, but not as sort of cavalier. That's not even true either. So you stick a FOAF in the root directory of your homepage or your GitHub organization profile README, where your README is, the profile. Technically not in the profile directory. So you create a FOAF and you point to other peer organizations. Then when our spider comes along and says, "Oh, okay, you're a friend of a friend. You are related to Innovate for Vegas Foundation and Open Fresno, so we'll add you to the thing." And now we can come up with a graph, literally, of who is connected to whom. Okay. So right away, if you are no longer responding, delete that FOAF. Now we can automatically create a real graph database of the loosely knit, decentralized, non-centrally planned, autonomous cohort map around the country. Who's active, who's doing what. You can even indicate participants. You can add people to a group, etc. But wait, there's more. The description of a project, DOAP, also RDF, you indicate the name of the project, the description, the programming languages, tags, where the repo is, where the bug database is, if there's a wiki, if there's a homepage. You indicate who the maintainer is, coders, documenters, testers, helpers. So it's a little bit richer than just contributor. So it's a little bit more useful than, your contributors.md file hopefully includes people that are not just coders. You should include anybody who's contributed to the project in general, not the code owners file. That's totally different. Contributors. So DOAP is a nice blending of standards with enough kind of looseness to include people who are working on your project. Now, the SpiderBot can come through also and collect DOAP files and add them to the graph database. So now we can start looking at things like without having a central authority, so that anybody could do this. There isn't a need to wait for Project ACT Robot, right? You can, and in fact, all the tools, of course, will be initially. There's nothing there. I've been playing in my sandbox on my computer, getting a few things working. Presently working on merging for localization multiple RDF documents. This is sort of hand-waved in the internets. I wish if the semantic web were more popular, there'd be more examples. Basically, what I'm trying to do is I have a DOAP file. RDF has a pretty straightforward handling of a language attribute for each node. So any given node can be duplicated once in English and once in Spanish or whatever, right? So you just say RDF lang equals ES, EN, whatever. So my plan is to, because GitHub has access to GitHub Translate. for free, right? So you can make use of some tools to have a repo that mirrors in another language. So not a repo, a directory. So our doc directory documentation, we have an English version, probably the main original version. And then we can create translations that will track the originals. So we can have an ES and a FR or whatever. And then if I create a DOAP file, so I'm presently using the turtle format because it's very easy to edit and read. Not so many angle brackets like XML. So .ttl, so dope.ttl in the doc root. And then I can have a doc underscore en, en, es, fr in each of the localized directories. So now if I keep name, short description, any other sort of just string values, string nodes, I can translate Smart Social Overview to, I don't remember what it is in Spanish. I did it. But so now I have 3 files. I have the root dope, DOAP file. I have the dope underscore en, dope underscore es. So I have 3 files. So I wrote a quick little Python tool to ingest n files, indicated on in argparse, so on the command line. And then I say output to dope.rdf. And then I have a little thing that says .rdf is a rdf/xml. So you import files, RDF, turtle sources into the same graph. So I iterate over the list, parse them into the same graph, and this should merge them. Now, what I'm having trouble with is getting the localized, name, short description. Those are the 3 I'm starting with. Getting those 3 to line up properly so that I just get duplicate I do want duplicate tags in the main graph, duplicate nodes, except for the language tags. So you want to have description, right? English, Spanish, French. What I end up getting, unfortunately, is, and I'm pretty sure I understand what I'm doing wrong, but I don't know how to do it right, is I'm getting 3 project graphs that are not merged. This is very annoying. So that's so I'm trying to make that work. Once I get that working, the FOAF will be about the same. Then we can create the translation tool is very simple. The spider tool should be as simple, and then we'll have to build a little front end to make. Here's some fun. Most front end, most HTML, most website designs that were built in the time of RDF and semantic web being popular, which was about 20 years ago, they mostly still work. And by the way, it's not like tiny companies or small unheard of entities are using this. I believe GNOME uses DOAP and FOAF. I know Apache Foundation uses it. There are others. So if you poke around, you'll start to see that this is still heavily used. But the people that were building the user interfaces for these things, they did that 20 years ago. So it's all old HTML looking sites. There's no blink tags, but it is it's looking a little dated. So obviously you want to be able to search. You want to say, hey, can you show me all the projects where people are using TypeScript or whatever, right? You can, there's categories, and programming languages are 2 of the specific nodes that you can add, multiple languages, multiple categories. So ultimately the tessellation will be, that's a mosaic, right? A mosaic of projects around the country driven by different organizations. And then the next steps, once we get people adopting this notion that you don't have to wait for central planning and a top-down organization to have giant meetings that don't go anywhere, you can do what the Code for Vegas Foundation did, and then it became the Innovate for Vegas Foundation. Form your own organization, direct yourself, and see what you can do without worrying about what other people are stopping you from doing. So assuming we get adoption, the next step, Project Act version 2, index the open issues per project. So the DOAP file points to the bug database. So if you're doing any sort of agile style user story, implementation task, etc., if you have your issue, if you have your tasks, and maybe bugs, but if you have or issues or problems, but if you have your project such that we can us, if we can spider your issue database, your bug database, and figure out what your open issues are, and then make those easily searchable across all these projects. So rather than you having to sign up for a service and advertise your project and help wanted or whatever, just be in the interconnected semantic web of civic volunteer organizations, autonomous even. And if our spidering works, then we should be able to find your issues that are open and on projects and whatnot. And ideally, in a magical example, 2 projects of similar focus and even implementation-ish similarities appear on opposite sides of the network, and a connection is, oh, I didn't know somebody else was working on something similar, and oh, you solved this problem, and then we solved the problem that you're having, and so on and so on. So discovery in the age of people not spending as much time and energy, we should be using the tools at our disposal. RDF and the semantic web 20 plus years ago, people had this stuff working. So no need to reinvent. RDF lives and works pretty well from what I can tell. So once I figure out proper merging to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish, I can publish that stuff. So I'm looking forward to Project Act. I'm also looking forward to people discovering it. So that of course will be another step along the path. Speaking of that, discovery, the MyMuni and Friends project, the MyMuni project is ramping up with deployment. We're going to deploy a real smarter smart city information sharing platform as we get these various pieces up and running. So our own website will fit into the MyMuni scheme of things. There will be the use of semantic web ideas. And if you're wondering, by the way, if semantic web is still a thing at all, visit schema.org. It is the way that search engines construct knowledge graphs and other relationship information and capture other metadata about search results. When they spider your page, they can identify, usually people are using JSON LD. And by the way, you can totally convert a turtle file, TTL, to JSON LD or XML RDF, or I think there's about 6 other formats. So once you're thinking semantic web tied for first, right? Not only semantic web, but once you have factored in the notion of like, a lot of what we're doing here will be using graphs. It will be connecting nodes. How is this person related to that person? How is that venue related to that person? How is that event related to this other event, etc.? You can publish things using pre-existing time-tested schema, RDF schema. You can take advantage of modern-day schema.org schema. You can publish as RDFA. You can publish as JSON LD. You can publish as XML RDF. You can publish as N3. There's probably more. There's a whole query language called Sparkle. There's another graph query language that is about to become a popular standard, and we'll see how they interoperate. But if we keep the notion of graphs together, like if we get graphing data, nodes, graph, semantic web thinking, and make that a part of the architecture from early days, we don't have to bolt anything on. So we can make use of these tools that have been around for a long time and tools that are just coming onto the scene, and take advantage of search engine optimization and connecting data and discovery and so on. Some details of the business side of this, because remember, I've mentioned this multiple times and I've been talking about it since, I'm going to say, the summer of 2022, the labs notion. So I don't want people to work for free, but I want to work with people who are willing to work for free. So that means I don't want people asking where the food is. I want people to be excited about elevating communities, developing new ideas, collaborating, learning how to collaborate in some cases, learning about new tools and techniques and how the old ways and the new ways actually do need each other. One of my favorite quotes, why are we focusing on email? Shouldn't we just be focusing on blockchain? So Cafe Genius Impresarios, I'm talking there each week about the business side of this deployment. Now, anyone who wonders, how can you take an open source project powered by volunteers and release it so that it makes money? Is that a business? Where have you been? Android phones, any number of web-based platforms, AWS. Intel is one of the top contributors to open source because they understand that Linux runs on Intel hardware. So they basically do the hardware side of an open source business. AMD, very similar. AWS is powered by tons and tons and tons of open source software. The Android device is based on the Linux kernel, so there's a completely free version of Android where they take out some of their own proprietary stuff. And the list goes on and on and on. There's too many to count. The Linux Foundation funds or otherwise enables many projects. Their accounting and what do you call it? Allocation of funds is probably a subject for debate, but not today. The GNOME Foundation, there's just so many entities out there that take open source software and civic or volunteers in general, volunteer contributors, and the contributors are not necessarily coders. They have a business model wrapped around it. They're charities, so they're 501c3 organizations. They accept funds and donations and other sponsorship and whatnot, and they are able to support the ongoing development of these tools that help the world continue to spin. Right, so these are very important projects out there. If you read about a supercomputer, which I think one just launched again, another supercomputer vying for number one in the top 100 or whatever it is, of course they're powered by Linux. Why? Because you can hack on the kernel and make it work on your machine. You're not trying to deal with Microsoft or Apple or I guess you could get BSD running on there. But the bottom line is Linux is powering a ton of things. The open source mindset is not going away anytime soon, and we're going to make it work here. And ideally, if we can build a business around the deployed version through, which I talked about today in the Impresarios audio program, episode 63, if we can get donations, value for value, support, direct sponsorship, advertising, and it may vary depending on different parts of the total platform and so on. The details of that will become more clear as we approach some sort of a test deployment. But the bottom line is we can actually turn volunteer effort into tangible outcomes. So I don't want you to work for free, but I want you to be willing to work for free because I'm working to turn that volunteer effort into a return on your investment. Because when you invest your time in these projects, what you get back will hopefully be commensurate in some way with what the general public, people in the world, get from your efforts. And we can leverage the efforts of many people with many skills and different focal areas, different observations about, ooh, I could fix that, or hey, this is something that needs attention. So if we can leverage all those things, we end up with positive outcomes, high value, demonstrable deployments, results that I believe will draw in, I'll just say funds, revenue generating, monetizable. Are we going to be the next Google? Probably not. But are we going to be able to offset your free time with some sort of return? It might not even be directly financial, but jobs, maybe as a part of your portfolio, a direct referral. Hey, who's the team that worked on this thing? And our policy on complete and total transparent attribution on project contribution will help with that. Not always true. Some organizations are better at it than others. Code for America was one of the not as good at it, but I can see some organizations. I've been looking at the Hack for LA website lately, so we'll see if we can get them participating in Project Act. But that is where today's reasonably short show can come to an end so I can get back to work. It is, I'm going to say it's about 38 minutes, 37, 38. It'll be over 38 in pre-edit. And then I literally truncate silence to get rid of some of the longer pauses when I have to sneeze or things like this. And so hopefully it'll be maybe around 33-ish, 33 minutes, maybe something like that. That is where I'll leave it. And don't forget, we're going to have episode 65 coming out. It should be Monday. I'm toying with Tuesday, so it might be Tuesday the 14th. Yeah. So it might be Tuesday. I might go Tuesday. Oh, it's in Ready for Vegas. Wednesday is Quaggling Sand. That's my show about whatever. Thursday is FFS Talk. Friday is Cafe Genius Impresarios. So 4 shows a week. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday seems convenient. So it might be that. We'll play this first one by ear since this will be the first transition to the new schedule. On that note, I thank you for listening. As always, don't forget to check out our website, especially the new one when it comes out. And do tell your friends, especially if your friends are into civic volunteerism. It seems to be it's not getting the attention across the nation that it once did, I think. All signs point to a lull, and that's not good. Everything is better when people are more involved. So I'll leave it there. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week.